That might be it.
What's going on, world? Jack of all spades, CLT, back like a replay. Yes, y'all. You don't stop. I am the beloved one, DJ Spellman. To my left, we have the Pride of Africa, Ken Wabibi.
Yes, it's the Pride of Africa, Ken Wabibi. Shout out to all the diaspora and big up to DRC, Congo.
Hey,
big up.
Both there to the Congolese massive across the world.
Bote.
Let's go. On my right, we have the boy, Banks on the beat.
Yeah, Banks on the beat, Blue Water Banks, Fat Boy Tires,
3700.
Wilkinson Boulevard,
The hub.
my guy.
It's always nice when it works out. Hold tight, Jay Marlowe, but you guys are going to be hearing from him soon. But we got our sister, Amaris Colindres, behind the camera today. But our special guest. Now, this individual believes that life is a performance and we are all connected by art. We have Miss Shefalee Patel. How are you doing today, madam?
Good. Thank you so much. Yes. Doing great.
We love that.
Thank you for being with us today. I'm going to start off this with the flower segment. Now, if you haven't seen us before, first time listening, we're going to open up with you, visual artists, Purdue University alumni.
Boilermakers.
You know, shout out all the food science engineers.
Woohoo.
You're also a dancer, community connector, YMCA board member, Mecklenburg County elections official. Cringed a little bit. Also a mother, a wife, Guild of Charlotte Artists, Arts and Culture Advisory Board, and founding member of South End Arts. Tell us about this background.
Woohoo. Yes. Thank you. Again, thank you guys so much for having me. A little bit about my background. Yes, I'm a food science engineer. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
I have no.
Can you elaborate?
Please
elaborate.
I'll tell you what that is. So anything in the grocery store, when you walk in, right, the 10% in the front is like the fresh fruits, vegetables that you buy. The other 90% of stuff in the grocery store has been touched by a food scientist, a food engineer, a food process. Like, how does wheat become the buns? How does, you get like pizza, frozen pizza, right? There's so many steps. They got to make the base. They got to make the sauce. And I don't want to like negatively, like it's all preservatives, but there's a process, right?
Yeah.
And humans in general, like if we could cure meat, we could make milk into yogurt, into cheese, so it would last longer. So we do have certain ways, like whether you change the pH or you make them like pickles, we put salt, so that way bacteria can't grow. With milk, you reduce the pH again and you get yogurt. Then the next step is cream cheese. And then from there you get the hard cheeses, like the Parmesan Reggiano, that's almost shelf stable.
Yes.
So that is what food science does.
Wow.
The bigger story is that my dad was an engineer, and he was a mechanical engineer, and he worked for a company that made Mazola margarine, Skippy peanut butter, Hellman's mayonnaise. And so when I was like 5 years old, I'm like, my daddy makes peanut butter. And he'd come home and, fresh off the line. Do you remember Laverne and Shirley, and they're working in that plant?
Yes.
So it was like that. My dad's like, oh, just pick these off the line. And he'd come home. And so when I was looking to, what am I going to major in? And, again, back to I was always a creative. I'm an artist, a dancer. But, being a child of an immigrant, your parents are not going to encourage you to go to art school.
Don't.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to be like, so that's a hobby, what's your real, what's going to pay the bills? So I realized that there's an actual degree in food science. And when I applied, I think at the time there was 50 schools that had this program. And then I applied, and it's, like I said, exactly what I was saying. Like, everything has been touched, whether it's anything you buy. Now, when you buy crackers, cookies, chips, it's unless you grew it in your backyard and pulled it out with your seeds that your grandmother gave to you, then you can say it's truly yours. But most of our foods, and then restaurants, right, fast foods, even farm to table kind of places, are still relying a little bit on some sort of process to make the food. Besides fresh food, but it's the stuff that we eat on a daily basis. Especially in America, we do rely on a lot of stuff that's ready to go. Yeah. So that's what food scientists do.
We'll big up all the food scientists across the world. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know that. Now, one of your missions is preserving and introducing people to the rich culture and artistic heritage of India. Can you share a bit of your family roots?
Yeah. So again, like I said, my parents are both immigrants. My father came in like 63, my mom around the same time. They didn't know each other, and they came as students. And that was, America was, we were going through the Vietnam War. JFK was president. It was like, we want to reach the moon. So what do we need? We need engineers. We need nurses. We need doctors. And so there was this push to allow immigration from country or people who had these educational backgrounds. So my father came and did his master's in mechanical engineering at the University of Wisconsin. My mom was in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, and somehow they met. They got married in Boston, outside of Boston. They were the first Indian wedding in 1968 in Beverly, Massachusetts. So it made the front page. There was the photographer came and took all these pictures, and but then they had me, a few years later, and I have two younger brothers, and they realized that, okay, this is our new home, but we've got to share, right? And there was, you guys, I've gotten picked on, I've gotten called, like, you Hindu, go back to your country, you camel jockeys. I was like, what's a camel jockey? Like, you're 8 years old, you don't even know. And then I realized later they were calling me a camel jockey. I was like, we're not from Saudi Arabia. We don't ride camels. But it was just, but how do you know at 8 what to say or how to explain, right? So my mom was like, okay, we're the new people. We need to share who we are and about us. And so whether it's through dance or through the food or because everybody's curious, why do you have this dot in your forehead? Why do you dress that way? Why do you smell funny? Why do you, and we didn't know how to explain. So with time, with experiences, we've been able to share. And the conversation has slowly changed, right? I remember when I was 8, I went to a wedding and I got the henna done, right? And after a few days, the henna becomes like a faded red. And I went to school and a girl, Tracy, was like, ew, looks like you have a rash on your hand. Please don't touch me. And I was like, so I didn't because I didn't know what to call it. I knew what my mom told me it was called. And now the conversation has changed, right? Now you're like, Henna, that's so cool. Right. Where'd you get it done? Can you do my hand? And, even with Indian food, they're like, you smell funny. Now it's like, where's the best Indian food? Like what's in your lunchbox? That looks really good versus that kind of like weirdness or awkwardness. And, it comes with education. And how does it happen? Unless we put our hand out and say, hey, you know what? Let me show you about our, whatever it is, our religion or our food or our dance or our day to day. And the thing was that we were American kids, right? Yeah. So we didn't know any different. So we were like, we eat Wonder Wheat white sandwiches and going to school and hanging out. But then when people looked at us funny, you're like, why am I not, accepted? Which is still a problem today.
Yeah,
correct.
But to be a part of that conversation. So I credit all my mom for she's like, we need to go. We need to be out there. And then we need to know how to explain it for the right reasons. Not just like, well, that's the way we do it. But why do we do this? There's a background. There's knowledge. Right. And so that's nice. And so I've been able to go to the schools. I go, we have our Festival of India, International Women's Day, whatever it is. And I like it when they ask me questions. I'm like, yeah, sure. How do you pronounce your name? Or, what does it mean? Or, what kind of foods do you eat? Let me share. Even being here today, this is a nice way
to share.
Oh,
yeah, for sure.
Share.
Yeah, I got to follow up. So this is just from me, having a plethora of multicultural friends. And you talked about your parents being the first Indian couple to have a wedding in Boston. So that tradition of Indian weddings, it's an event.
It is.
I want to know, where does that come from? Like, y'all have 2 weeks of maybe more.
We do. Yeah. Like 4 or 5 days of celebrations, 8 to 10 outfits. Yeah, like you're like, oh my God. So I even joke because I have like a bunch of nieces and nephews that are not, getting married or not. And I was like, you guys, I've got a lot of outfits waiting. That's why I'm dressed up today. I was like, I'm going to get dressed up and go somewhere. I think it was, I don't know exactly. I think it's more because it's a celebration, and we were always told it's not really a marriage of 2 people; it's a marriage of 2 families coming together. So these events kind of, lead up and there's opportunities, and there's actually special events like, okay, the mother's brother, the groom's mother's brother, and the bride's mother's brother will have connect, right? Because you're like we're kind of the same representative on each side of the family. So it's nice to see it's just a lot of celebrating, a lot of festivities, a lot of dressing up, a lot of just like, this is a really important step you're taking. We're not just going to let you get away and have 18 people at your wedding. We're going to do it for 5 days, and the food and there's in each, and even within India, there's your customs of where we were from. Like, okay, we do this the night before, we do this the morning out, we do this the day after. There's steps and there's processes. But yeah, you guys have seen them in the movies. It's elaborate, and it's a lot of fun.
I would love to go to one.
dope.
So any listener out there, I'm ready. Send me the invite. I'm ready.
We actually did one for the city of Charlotte with Charlotte Shout. We did My Big Fat Indian Wedding.
Wow.
We did a whole presentation uptown. It was May of 2019. The only unfortunate part is that a major rainstorm came through. And at the end, actually a tornado, we had to clear out, and our mandap even kind of blew a little because there was winds whipping through the city. But because we realized people do like to see it. And we did the horse, and we did the henna, and we did the singing and the dancing, and, receiving of the groom, and the bride comes, and the flower exchange. And when they leave, there was a rickshaw, and they went home. And so we tried to emulate, but we'd love to do that again for the city. Kind of put on a production.
Keep us in mind.
Really.
Keep us in mind.
Yeah.
Now, you spoke of the henna a couple of times. What does it represent?
So you can see I have it on my hand
Yes,
today.
I see it. Show the camera.
I went to an event yesterday.
Yes.
There was a recital, and it's a great cause. It's for it's called Kiran, and it's for domestic violence, especially with the South Asian community, right? Because there's services available for women, but they're not going to understand. Sometimes there's language barriers. Sometimes there's cultural barriers. There's understanding there's women that have come here, got married, and maybe they don't have the right to work because they're on their husband's visa.
Yeah.
So it was a great, Ritu Mukherjee is one of the dancers here in town, schools, and she had this phenomenal dance recital, and then it was a charity event. And so outside there was women doing the henna. So sometimes it's just strictly for decorative.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be for marriage. People will get both hands, both feet done. It's just another place to decorate and to, and also if she's gotten her henna, the bride is okay, you can't do anything now. You have to just kind of relax and sit and not trying to run around the night. Because my mom was always everything that we do has some sort of scientific, logical explanation behind it. Now, if I'm getting married in 3 days, should I be doing all my errands the last minute? No, get it all done. So then I get your henna and then just, celebrate, enjoy. And there's a cooling effect, I guess, with this henna. I don't know all the background on it, but it's decorative and to enjoy.
Okay. Now, where would you say your love for arts came from? Because, you say your dad, engineer, mom, engineer. Where it came from?
Yeah, no, it's my mom. She was same thing. If she was on the phone, she was doodling. She was writing. She was either, whether it was cooking or creating something, it was always, let's present it this way. And it was, again, an opportunity to share, because we would, perform it. If there was an Indian festival, we would go there. But she's we also need to perform at the International Folk Festival in Chicago. We need to go to the Illinois State Fair. We need to go to the Indiana State Fair. And we did, right? And people are there's people that don't look like us in the audience, but she's they need to see this. Right. And then we would do an interactive part. So it's from her. It was we love this. We love creativity. And also I think everybody's creative, first of all. But I also believe that sometimes you have to be extra creative when you don't have financial, you can make, there's a saying in our language, you from 1 and 1 you can make 2, but 1 and 1 you can really make 3, 4 if you had to. Making ends meet, if you're making dinner, I have this much, what can I do to kind of expand or make the experience more exciting? So I think it's a little bit of creativity that way, but it started out. It was part of the sharing and being a part of the community.
Okay. I wanted to ask, you said you were the older and you have 2 younger brothers, right?
2 brothers, yeah.
Okay. With your parents taking your interest in art as a hobby, did that have any influence on your brothers as far as you taking on the path of art?
Well, the path of art came way later,
okay.
way, I was married, my children were grown up. And, it was always there, the creativity part and crafting and making stuff and dancing. It's always been a part. But again, it's what's really, my brothers are both engineers too.
Okay.
One's a computer engineer, one's a mechanical engineer, and they both work in that field, and their families are, everybody's doing good. But yeah, I wish it'd be nice, like, and I think that's a struggle that all creatives kind of feel like, right? And that's what we're talking about, is how to turn your passion into your true career. Like, I would love for somebody to pay me. And I tell my husband, I was like, look at people that play golf all day and get paid millions, but there's another millions of people that don't get paid, and they have to pay into it to play and stuff. So it's one of those things.
I'm also wanted to know, how do you go about perfecting your craft?
So I guess my mom used to call me this, and my friends have called me this. She's like, you're like the laziest efficiency person. I like to get stuff done really fast, but then I'm like, I'll get to it. But when I do it, I think when there's events and there's something coming up, that pushes me. So when someone says, hey, do you want to do this? And here's the date, I'm in. So I wish I was better at, like, I'm going to, every day I'm going to do a project. And I've even signed up for those things like, okay, one art project a day, like post it on Instagram or Facebook, trying to encourage yourself to try out new ways or try a new medium, or here's the theme of the day. And I've tried those, but I'm like, until someone says, hey, show up with your artwork at 2:00 on March 4th. Okay, it's ready, and I might still be working on it like until 12, noon, making sure I'm drying it with a hairdryer to get my artwork in. But I do enjoy. And the other thing I was going to say to you guys is that when people have asked me, like, so what's your medium? Are you doing acrylics, watercolor, blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, my medium is really people. I love, love, love. So it's not so much that, my artwork is on the wall, but who is looking at it and who are you and why? And I want to know more about you. And I'm excited to meet you and get to know people. So the people that I've met, and that has been the best part of all this art stuff. It's not just so much like I want to get my artwork, get exposure, sell it. I want to go to the exhibit. I want to go to the reception. I want to talk to the people. So this COVID has really kind of put a damper, because everybody's galleries went, virtual and online. I was like, it's not the same as meeting in person.
Okay, I appreciate that perspective, because also, like, going to galleries and stuff, I like to even stand behind people or hear their interpretation of what the art is themselves, because everybody's just so different.
Yes, I like to see what they are thinking, what's triggering them, what's exciting them, why do they stop here or not there? And yes, agreed.
Now, we don't want to gloss over the fact, but our boy Banks on the Beat, he's very artistic. Like, he doesn't talk about it too much, but I want him to also share about it, his process. Like, how does he perfect his craft?
If you may.
To be honest, what she said kind of struck me as far as, people, perception of art and people at the same time. You want to know how you're triggering people, or, sometimes you can bring out something in somebody that they don't see themselves, or just things that, even when it came to us and designing this logo, it was, I knew the concept of who we were. I knew what kind of things we were interested in. I knew the point we were trying to get across. And hence we end up jack of all spades. And I'm like, okay, jack of all spades. What is jack of all trades, jack of all spades? Okay, we can line that up with us talking and the cards. So it's like the poker cards and everything, and it kind of fell. But yeah, that's how I kind of interpreted that.
I like the logo. It's nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to get into this next question. So there's some background for me. There was an NFL running back, Arian Foster. He played for the Houston Texans in the early 2010s. And when he scored a touchdown, he always made this gesture right here. So with me, I'm always a forever learner. So I had to look it up, and I found out Namaste. So for the people that don't know, the light, truth, beauty, and peace in me honors those same things in you. Essentially, that's what Namaste stands for. But now, these days, most people only associate it with yoga. Can you give us the cultural significance of it?
Yeah, exactly what you said. When I put my hands together, so especially with COVID, we realized, right, like we got to stop shaking hands, and we're doing the fist bump, but people are hesitating. I said, we need to go back to our original Hindu, Indian, Vedic way, putting your hands together, because that means I've stopped doing whatever I'm doing, and I'm acknowledging you, and I'm putting my hands, and I'm respecting the soul in you, and then the soul in me, and that we're there, we're in the same place. In our big picture of Hinduism, we believe that we're all connected into one being, whether you call him God or Allah or wherever it is. Everybody's got different names, but at the end of the day, everybody in this room is the same. We, as humans, we can only consume proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, water, and trace minerals. That's it. No one can say, hey, you know what, I lived off of tree bark for a year, or I ate iron for a year, or I eat asphalt. We can't. So we need the same things. If you cut any of us, we're going to bleed red. So we are the same. And we need, the only thing that humans need is love. That is what we're all based around. So namaste means basically nam, which means to bow, and aste means asti, your atma, your soul. And so I'm bowing to your soul because it's the same. And we believe at the end, whether you call it emancipation or moksha or enlightenment or becoming one with God, our souls are going to return. And that is our ultimate goal or role, is that we are born, and what we do and how we, contribute. You've heard of your karma,
Yes.
right? And what they're saying is that, so when you're born, everybody's got a responsibility, whether you're somebody's son, you're someone's sibling, you're a nephew, you're a grandson, you're a coworker, you are a citizen of the earth. We all have a responsibility, and how we give back and how we perform those duties, that's your karma. Your dharma is your duties, and karma is how you performed. And in the end, the guy upstairs is going to say like, you did it, didn't do it. Either you become one. That's, again, a little Hinduism in there too.
That's
But,
deep.
yeah.
It's profound, because I think people hear it and they think, one thing, but you really just,
Yeah.
you enlighten me. So
We're going to talk about that. Like, people have different, like, you worship cows. No, we don't. We respect them. We value them because they provide so much for us. But yes,
can you say the pronunciation again? Because I want to make sure I'm saying it correctly.
namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Yeah.
Okay.
You got
I'm
it.
not even
You
going to
got it.
attempt it.
Yeah.
You know, read my
you
words.
Got it. You got it.
Namaste. Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the Namaste Artist CLT Collective.
Yeah. So we are, I'm an artist, like I said. We have a group. Every year we exhibit at the Festival of India, which is organized by the India Association in Charlotte here. You guys have been going on for 25 years. They started in
When does it take place?
usually, so we fluctuate, right? Because
Okay.
they use, we're at the Belk Theater, and then we get 2 blocks of the city they block off for us. So we've gone earlier from June. Usually September, October is better for us.
Gotcha.
But again, it depends on what's going on in the city and the availability of places. So this year, so we have 2 festivals this year because we missed 2020 and 2021. So the India Association is hosting with this town of Matthews on April 30th. We're calling it a regional mini India festival at Stumptown Park on April 30th, 12 to 6 Saturday. It's a free event. Parking is available. The city of Matthews is super excited to partner with us or partner with this group. And it's going to be performances, food vendors, clothing vendors, an art display, cultural exhibits, interactive, activities for the kids as well. And it's all open and free. So we were that group of people that were organizing the visual art gallery. And then we ended up going, I think, to International Women's Day, and we displayed there. And the lady made an announcement like, oh, hey, check out the artwork. And she hesitated. She's like, the artwork from India, the Indian artwork by the Indian people. And I was like, man, none of those apply to us. We're not all from India. We're not all doing Indian artwork. We're not all Indian. And because we're open to everybody. So then we kind of brainstormed with our little core group of 6-8 people and came up with, like, we want to make it have the connotation and, the affiliation that we're still Indian-ish, but not, like I said, I'm not really from India, but, so we came up with Namaste. So it kind of gives you the feel and it gives you a background. And so we just call ourselves Namaste Artists CLT. And we're just a collective, and we're affiliated with the India Association.
Okay, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Creative.
Yeah, you guys got to come April 30th.
You send an invite.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah, good. Yeah, please.
Now, this next question is a 2-part question. So the Art and Culture Advisory Board wants to transform Charlotte cultural landscape and have a profound impact on our community. Why did the city leaders feel this was an important issue? That's the first part of the question. And the second part is, how do you all plan on accomplishing that goal?
Wow. That's a big one.
Break it down in pieces.
That's a good question. So, yes, the city, I think they realized at some point last year, the year before, with everything going on, that they're going to be more involved, right? And there's going to be a little bit more money. Traditionally, it's been Arts and Science Council, the Foundation for the Carolinas. So collectively, so they hired Priya Sarkar. She is the Arts and Culture Director for the city. And then she's amazing, super amazing. And then at the same time, there's an 18-person advisory board, and it's partially from City Council has appointed some of the people, the industry, the ones that have been supporting, and then the Foundation for the Carolinas and the Arts and Science Council. They also have seats involved in the 18-person team. And it's new. It's new for the city, right? It's more money. It's great, and we want to share it. And it's trying to see the whole big picture together and trying to see, like, because they have the traditional organizations, the Thrive organizations, the symphony and the museums that also need funding. Yes. And then there's an opportunity fund where we can, like, hey, there's this project and we need, like, the mural that they did, like the CLT's creative, Black Lives Matter mural, and something like that happens. You can't wait for a grant cycle to show up and say, okay, let's wait till September and you put a grant in and then we'll have people and we'll get back to you in December. No, like something like that needs to be done.
Correct.
So like I said, that I Am a Queen. Queen Charlotte is coming in the first week in March, and that's exciting. And so that was one of our first projects that the board has funded. And it's exciting, but there's a lot. It's new. It's new for the city. It's new in every which way direction. So how and the what, and then you still have this pandemic situation. So you're not really meeting in person. You're not getting that. I just met a bunch of them on Friday, and I was lit up. I was like, literally, it was my husband's birthday that morning, and I forgot to wish him happy birthday. I get there and I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. I was like, I got to be there at 8 and, leaving. And I was up at 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm getting ready. And my husband was like, you're up early. I was like, yeah, I gotta go. And he didn't say anything. And then I'm like, I completely forgot to wish you. But I was excited because it was meeting, and you guys too, meeting in person.
Yes.
It's a whole different vibe.
It's
a whole different excitement than, you can put me on Zoom and I'm like, so yeah, I'm excited for the city and I want to be involved. And like we were saying earlier, that there's the process needs to be established. And I think that's where they're saying, just be patient. It's going to happen. How it's going to happen, but it's not how, it's when it's going to happen. And it's going to happen because everybody wants to contribute and share. And I want to see a lot of like this I Am Queen Charlotte. I think it's great because it's at the Belk Theater, it's poetry, it's, the history of Black women, the influence, it's a photographer. And maybe I'm not giving it justice, but I think it's a great intersection and great, like communities coming together. And that's what it should be. Like, even though we have established museums, we should support them, but it would be great to have like last year, Carla did that exhibit at the Mint Museum, and it was just like a pop-up, of like artists that would not normally
King
be
Carla,
seen.
Big up.
Yeah.
Big
up to that one. That was
good. Yes, I love her, and I was like, that's what we need more of. I'm like, we can do like an Indian art exhibit. Give us a week here, and give like the Jamaican people, like
Wagwan.
Everybody. So use what we have, but use them in different ways, and I think that's the new thing.
Okay. I want to make a reference to your IG story. You put up, go the extra mile. It's never crowded. How's that piece of advice help you?
That's why I'm here today.
The extra mile.
Sometimes not knowing or being a little bit ahead. You're not ahead per se, but you can look back and not be crowded, and not when you look around, because I said it's not so much, we all have the journey, right? From the day I'm born till when I end, right? We talk about, everybody knows the dash, right?
Yeah.
What does that dash mean? I could just be here and I could be comfortable, and I've got my 3-4 friends, and we get together and we do stuff that we enjoy. But if I go to different groups or different people, I might be challenged. I might be like, hey, did you know about this? No, I didn't know about that, right? Like, given this conversation today, we've learned so much. I learned so much,
100%.
right? And I wouldn't have, if I said, no, you guys, I don't feel comfortable. This is not my thing.
We wouldn't have this.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be having this energy. And I'm going to go home, and I'm already meeting with like 5 people immediately after this and telling them what happened today and what's going on. And, and people are excited, like, yes, we want to do more stuff. We just don't know where or how. So I think it's not so much being ahead of people, it's being in a different space, right? The other quote is, good guys don't finish last. They're running in a different race. So it's like when you think you're competing against, but why are you competing against the kindergarten level, right? Compete over here and the PhD level. And you're like, yes, that's why. So I'm like, don't feel bad that you're missing out on X, Y, and Z, but you're learning something else in the process.
Okay.
All right. Well, look, gems. Well, look,
A lot of gems.
that's what we do.
I'll make a little transition. So you visited France.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about your experience being surrounded by some of the iconic pieces of art in France.
Wow, I was blown away. We went to Versailles one day. We were at the Louvre, just seeing everything. It was like, oh my gosh, we got to see this, we got to see that. You know, and it's like so many people. We did luck out because of the pandemic, because of the time of year. Our tour guide was like, you know, you guys, we were at the Venus de Milo statue, and he's like, in this room, normally it'd be 1,000 people, and all the tour guides were trying to, you know, talk over each other. He's like, there's like maybe 200 people here. So we got to really enjoy, walk around, look at it from all the angles. And he made a really interesting point. We looked at some of the statues. We looked at, you know, obviously this was built by Napoleon, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, it really wasn't gifted per se. It was probably
took him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And put together. But I said at the same time, because he established a place and a space for this stuff, there's this, I forgot the name. It's from an island in Greece. Now that island is requesting that statue back. But when they picked that statue up, it was in 750 pieces. And they spent like 6-7 years putting it together.
Right.
And they gave it a place. They gave it a place of where it's amazing, right? It's at the top of the stairs. So you feel like you're looking at a cliff. And he said, so, you know, the question is, do we return it? Do we hold on to it? You know, do you guys know why the Mona Lisa is so famous? I didn't know. It wasn't the face. It was because someone had stolen it. It was stolen. The guy that worked at the place, he stole the piece just to prove a point. This was, I don't know how many, whatever it was. And it made the news. So everybody came to see the blank space on the wall of where it was stolen from. And he was like, he wanted to steal it just to prove a point of some sort. I have to figure out the whole story, but 2 years later, it came back, and they realized that the guy who worked like security or something, he's the one that took it home. But it became famous is because it was missing. It's like that Banksy, you know, the artist, right?
Yeah.
He does some interesting stuff. So sometimes it's the novelty of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but back to the Paris, everything is beautiful. And we went like in December, so everything's lit up. The Christmas windows, the decor, the hot coffee, it was just, I was like, oh my gosh, I could go back again. It was really nice.
Nice. And just speaking of Banksy, he's actually having an
Exhibit.
event right now, an exhibit here.
Yeah.
Really?
In March.
It's started
now?
Yeah.
I think
It's going on right now.
Okay, I got to get tickets to that.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
That's the question.
Yeah.
No, it's over there in Music Factory.
Yeah, it
It's in
is.
Music Factory.
Oh,
Avenue
okay.
Exchange or
Thanks.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Shefalee, if you didn't know, the foundation for Jack of All Spades is hip hop.
Yes.
So, and I think it's safe to say for me, Banks and YBB, our first introduction to Indian culture was a song by Punjabi MC.
Yeah.
The Mundi Anda Bata Kerai.
Yeah.
But the remix though with Jay-Z, my nickname's world famous, so it's okay. So you kind of alluded to it earlier about introducing people to the culture, or when it gets mainstream, people are more accepting. So when was the first time you felt that your culture and heritage was widely accepted by the mainstream?
Yeah. So that's like the Knight Rider remix, right?
Yep.
We're like, oh my God, when that song comes on, I'm like, everybody move. We got to dance. And so I'm not Punjabi. It's called Punjabi. Punjabi is a state, but and it's that typical, you know, hands up in the air, screw the lipo, pet the dog kind of action. So that's, you know, again, that's how we teach people and we share it. It was probably in the mid 90s. There was this other guy, his name was Bali Sagoo. If you look him up, there was a DJ here in New York, Magic Mike. And this was when I got married. I got married in 95. So it was around that time, 93, 94, that people like the Indians who are here, you know, they had the big weddings and having a reception, right? That's quietly a big production and the cost of it. And people were hiring DJs. So this Magic Mike actually came down to Charlotte for our wedding reception. Wow. And that Bali Sagoo, Bali Sagoo had done is taken like old school classic Bollywood songs, right? Bollywood is what the Hollywood of India is called, right? And then he mixed them in like with Macarena, you know, and like different I'll have to send you the links. It's amazing. And so even my husband's like, oh my God, that was like the song of our, like when we were dating and then we got married, you know, before we had kids. And I remember going and we were in Atlanta and we had to go and we went to buy the CD at the Indian store. So I think that was kind of when, and then when I lived in New Jersey, we had an intern that came in from New York and he was like, oh my God, yeah, they play Bhangra music. I'm like, Bhangra music. Yeah. So I think it was around that time. Cause like you said, when I was 8, there was no Indian actors. There was no like icons. Right now, it's like there's shows, right, on Netflix. There's actresses, actors, the food, the clothing, the culture is a little bit more mainstream. So there's representation, right?
Yes.
There's books, there's stories. So the kids growing up today, like, oh yeah, like this looks normal, and so or looks like me, is another way of saying it. And so, I would say it was around that time with Bali Sagu, and then the whole transition, and then India kind of got into it too. Now some of the movies, the stories are a little bit more mainstream and mixing.
Okay. Question. I got a question before you get into it. Thanks. So from my knowledge, just from being around so many different people, so you referred to the Punjab state, and then I'm familiar with the Bengali region as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like, where is your family?
Okay, so let's go back. That's one of so India. If you had taken Europe, let's say as an analogy, if you taken all of Europe and put it into one country, right? That's how India is. So even like I'm Gujarati, there's Punjabi, there's Bengali, there's Malayali, there's Tamil, there's almost 22 to 27 distinctive languages.
Okay.
And when they speak, like my sister-in-law, she is from Tamil Nadu, when she speaks her language, I can't even understand one word. It's not even, so it's the northern languages and the Dravidian and the northern-based languages. So I can understand a little Punjabi, a little Hindi. I'm Gujarati, I understand Gujarati. So it's very, very different. But someone just came along and like pushed them all together, like, oh, we're going to call you Hindustan. And then it eventually became India, right? For all the years that they've been, quote, conquered by the different, whether it was the Arabs or the groups that have come, and then the British eventually, and then they got their independence in 1947. But the region and those small capital states or little princely states have been established for a much longer period of time. So that's very unique. So if I meet another Indian person, 90% of the time we won't be able to talk. We can't talk in our language, right? And it's like people putting Africa. People think like, why do there's different languages in Africa? I'm like, because there's different countries.
So many countries.
Because it's not one country. So people kind of like, so if Africa was one country, and you can't, right? Because the clothing, the food, the language, the religion, everything is so distinctively different.
And then within the particular country, is so many different dialects spoken between the people. West, south, east, depending on what part of the country they are from.
So the same, like there's like 22 or 27 languages in India, but then each language has so over 1,000 different dialects.
Correct.
And even that. And then within communities, like depending on like where Patels or whether, you're from the northern part of Gujarat or the southern part, your food and your religion, not your religion, but your wedding customs could be different, right? So we're learning too, because if I was raised in India, I would have seen like my neighbors, I would have seen like an aunt, uncle, people living around us, and you kind of just absorb a lot of the culture through just presence. Yes. But now we're living in Chicago. It's just my mom, my dad, my two brothers, in our little neighborhood with like 90% Caucasian, and you're seeing what they do. And that was a struggle too for my parents, like trying to teach us our culture, but then trying to make sure like, well, how do you do an Easter egg hunt? Where do we get a Halloween costume from, right? What are we supposed to wear? This is the 1970s. There was no like, just YouTube it, how you celebrate, St. Patrick's Day, just do this. And, so we had to, there was like this constant like trying to learn from this, the language barrier, the cultural barrier, the not knowing. We had one funny thing was like, I remember something said, oh, the deal fell through. I was like, oh, that's so good. Because I thought was fell through means, it went through. Like, like I got the pass. And they're like, no, honey, no, it didn't work. I was like, oh my God. So my parents were like, oh my, so culturally not knowing, and the English language is very confusing. Like when someone says push up the date, like push up, like make it earlier, or push up, like make it like you think a push means like
away, but really means towards.
So they were learning a lot of things, trying to find their sense of security, establishing themselves, making sure that they took care of, their parents that were back home in India or relatives, or, it was just a constant, what's next and what's new. And then at the same time trying to teach our kids, hey, be proud of who you are. It's okay. It's good. But yet we're Americans. Yet we're, so when people ask me, that's the biggest question. Where are you from? And I always say I'm from Chicago. And they're like, no, but where are you really from? And I said, okay, yes, my parents are Indian immigrants. And I'm proud of it. I love it. I like it. And I like talking about it. But, when I was 8, it was like, you know.
We
So-
share a similar experience. So as you can see, Amaris, that's my sister. Even though I'm a little bit darker, that's my sister. So I grew up Latino. So when I'm in the schools and it's a student I'm unfamiliar with, I always ask them, where are you from? They'd be like, I'm from Charlotte. I'd be like, Que país, like what country? They'd be like, okay, now I can really tell you. It's like, no, I knew you were Latino. Like of course, if they look at me, they assume I'm just American, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But I know I understand that because if somebody's asking you, they really want to know where you're from because you never know what they may know.
They sometimes are like, oh, you know what? My brother is from India, or I went to India last year. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Now they connect.
The connection is there, but you just don't know initially. And sometimes if there was like a negative or racist remark, you're like, so you just kind of have.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, but now I'm glad. Now I want that. I want people to say, hey, what are you wearing? Why do you do this? What's going on? We were at the school, like this was 2 years ago, and there was 4 of us other ladies, and everybody talked about different parts of India, and then we were going to do an interactive. And then I spoke. So there's 4 ladies spoke, and then I spoke. 4th grader put her hand up, and she's like, I have a question. She's like, you speak really good English. And I was like, for a second, I looked at her. I was like, you know what? Because we teach our kids to figure out patterns, right? We're like, this is the same. This is different. And I said, you know what? That's great. I'm so glad you saw that. Those other 4 women, English is their second language. For me, I'm an American. This is my first language. She kind of like, 4th grader, 8 years old, 9 years old. She kind of lost me at first language, second language. But I said for her to notice it, and I'm hoping she's going to go home and say, Mom, this lady came in. She was fully dressed in her Indian clothes, and she was talking about this Indian culture, but she spoke American English. That's great. That's good. Because so she'll know now that, we all look different, but yeah, we can be, that we're all Americans at the end of the day. And that's an important, that was, like they had that Define American, like how do you define American Film Festival? And that was kind of where I started to I need to learn to define myself. Like who am I? Like at what point am I an American? At what point can someone say that you belong here, you don't belong here? And I think that's a question so many people face. It's not just for me, so many immigrant groups.
True.
Unfortunate people have been here for like 5-7 generations and they're still
in that conversation.
And they're considered outsiders. And I want to be a part of that conversation. I want to be a part of that understanding, and that so whenever there's an opportunity, I'd like to be there.
Okay. Well, speaking of things that bring us closer together, you brought us some treats to start off today, right?
Yes.
So we want to know, besides your house, where are some other amazing Indian food spots in Charlotte?
So you guys are all invited to my place. My husband is a huge cook. He loves especially non-veg. So if you guys eat goat, chicken, lamb, whatever it is. He's ready.
Don't threaten us with a good time, Shefalee.
No, you guys don't have to come over, please. I would love to have all of you guys over. Charlotte has an amazing Indian food scene.
Yes.
It depends on what you want to eat. I think a lot of them are most of them are really, really good. Indian street food, Botiwala, which is at Optimus Hall.
Okay.
There's Blue Taj. There's Bombay Grill.
He's been Taj.
Yeah. You've been there.
I always recommend it.
Yeah. Blue Taj is excellent. Like I said, Saffron is where I work right behind it. Bombay Grill. He's a legend. He's been here for a while.
Where's that one? I've never heard of that.
Me
one.
either.
Off of 51.
Okay, so
Matthews,
okay,
near the hospital, kind of that area.
Bombay Grill.
Yeah, Bombay Grill is great. There's Tabla, there's Chattantosa, there's places on North Side. It just depends on what part of the city you're in, and Copper.
I love Copper.
Yeah. There's some great places in Charlotte, and honestly, the Indian grocery stores have also kicked it up. Okay, because like I said, those samosas were frozen, and then I air fried them and made the chutney, and bought them in, but. There's a lot of foods that are now available, especially for people like me that grew up with mothers that cooked everything from scratch.
Yes.
But I don't have that. I don't want to say the time, but I don't have that, to put all that effort in. So there's some great dishes, and some of the stores even have like on the weekends they'll have full meals ready to go. Like you can kind of like they have at the grocery stores. Yeah. You can kind of get everything to go, and so it's like when my husband's parents and in-laws, they came in the 80s, and I think there was like maybe one Indian grocery store. Till now there must be like 8, 10, 12.
Wow. And
the variety and the size and the offerings are amazing. Do you guys ever want to do like a walk to Patel Brothers? We can do that. I do that with my neighbors. We just go once a year and like, okay, what's this? What's that? Like, try this. It's savory or sweet or salty or trying to, different flavors and different spices, but it's a nice way to learn.
Now, we definitely want to come to the crib and experience
anytime.
that good food.
Yeah.
For sure.
To eat.
You about to say something?
I won't say anything.
All right. So, Shefalee, we have reached the favorite segment, most popular segment of Jack of All Spades Nation. We call it Top 5 Dead or Alive. So, keeping with your mission of just introducing people and preserving, the great history and culture of India, what are the top 5 things that you want the masses to know about Indian culture?
Yes.
Oh, that's like a loaded, so again, back to we're
because it's,
yeah, we talked about
Yes,
we're humans. We need to be loved. Why we dress a certain way. Do you guys know why I have this dot on my forehead?
No.
So I don't wear it all the time. I actually like the way it looks on my face. But traditionally, it's been in the Vedas, in our Hindu scriptures. So God gave you 2 eyes to look out at the world, but this eye is respecting that eye that's looking in because we're always growing in, right? So where do you look back? So and then you have your chakras, right? So this represents the third one. So you have 1, 2, and then this is your third one. But now it's become like a decorative item, right?
Yeah.
It's like putting on lipstick, you put on a dot. They come in different shapes and different colors.
I was just about to ask,
Dude,
this the color,
Yeah, I should have bought. I have 1,000 packets, and they're blue, green, purple, swirls, round, square, you name it. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And I think most people are okay with it. And then lately, these celebrities have put them on, and people are like, "Oh, should they?" I'm like, that word, the whole concept of cultural appropriation, I had to look it up. I was like, what does that really mean? But at the same time, if they're enjoying it and they're doing it respectfully,
Right.
I'm okay with it. Maybe not put it on your rear end, but put it where it's supposed to be and respect, at least know about it. I'm okay. I think it's great. I think it's nice when people, my friends at work, she had a wedding to go to. She's like, I have to go to an Indian wedding. And she's like, is it okay for me to wear Indian clothes? I was like, yes. That's so amazing. Please do. And I'm like, come over, borrow my stuff, my jewelry, my clothing, take my pouch, whatever. I want you guys to, when you go to a wedding, it's like when you go to a Halloween party, you dress up. You dress up, right? You go to Mardi Gras, you dress up. You go to St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, wear green. So I go, it's not like, I don't think it's disrespectful at all. I think it's that you took the effort, that you didn't I'm not going to come in my, just generic black dress. I'm going to dress up in the Indian clothes for an Indian wedding. So it's funny with the pandemic, everything has kind of slowed down. And 2 of my friends at work, I'm like, can I borrow? I'm like, yes. And the neighbor was like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, come over. And dressing up. And I think it's just a way of respecting. And as long as you respect and value, I think that's the biggest thing, is to know that. And the other thing, I asked my friends about this. I was like, so what do you guys think? People are always, and that we're all not very smart. And I said, oh my gosh, yeah, because people think all Indian people are smart. And so it was back to that point where America's we're going to, kind of the gatekeepers of who gets to come in. And it was based on education, or we need more engineers, we need more doctors, we need more nurses. So those people, since the educated people came in initially, that was kind of how the perception formed. That all Indian people are smart. We're smart. We are smart. I'm not, denying that. But at the same time, it's a stereotype that people have that expectation because, oh, you're Indian, you must be smart. We're just, I tell my kids, I'm like, you guys are not the first generation. You're the second. You're third generation. My husband was born and raised in Fiji, and his grandfather immigrated in the 1920s. So technically, my kids are third and fourth generation outside of India. Yeah, but we all look Indian because they've continued. The parents are both Indian descent. Okay. So it's interesting to see when I talk to my kids, I'm like, yeah, Mom, I'm Indian, but that's it. I was like, and I was like, yeah, it's good. But I don't know. I'm curious to see where that, takes them. And I know where I have and where I'm with my, my family and my connections. Because honestly, we have very little family in India. Everybody pretty much is living here. So when we travel, we're almost like tourists traveling to India.
Wow.
So just hearing you say that, I've known friends of different countries that, their parents try to give them that culture piece, and maybe they're not as receptive. So do you teach your sons the language? How far does it go with, you and your husband giving the culture to them?
That is an issue because my husband and I, we speak in English, right? So our kids speak English, but they understand. They told me they understand our native language because for, again, my husband and us, it's a second language. It wasn't our primary language. So, and you know when we use it the most, which is really funny, is when we travel. So we were like in line in Rome or at the train station, and I'm like, in our language, guys, like, put your wallet in the front pocket.
It's a good tool to have.
Yeah.
Code language.
Oh my God, code language. Yeah. So my husband and I went to India, and he started talking to me in our native language. I was like, did you forget where we are? He's like, oh my God. We had just gone to Italy, and then we went to India together. So the funny thing is, like, well, talk to me like in a really southern drawl. I was like, oh, y'all people know. So I was like, yeah, just talk really fast in English. No one will understand us over there. I was like, that's really funny that, we don't have a code language in India. Like, how do we talk to each other? But, and it was just more for security and safety, at the airport or something. But we're trying. We do try. There was a kite festival at our Hindu center, the mandir, and we took the kids and we're like, you're going to experience this. They're kind of like, yeah, this is cool. This is good. But sometimes it's not just having the connection to the culture, but having like a village, right?
Yes.
It's your other friends. If your girlfriend is into it, if your guy friends are into it, your school, like, and plus when they go to college now, like with the Punjabi music, right? So now there's Bhangra teams in college.
Wow,
there's like
okay.
Dandiya, like the stick dance that we do, and the Garba. There's now these competitions, right? It wasn't there when I was around in college. So that kind of like to be a part of something is exciting as well. Sense of belonging, like, yeah, my mom makes the same food on Sunday mornings, or this is what I grew up with, or yeah, my grandmother, she would nag me about blah, 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 blah. But sometimes a sense of like, oh, you do it? Yeah, we do it too, right? Yeah. So, and I know I went through that, like in finding that community. And I think that's what, now we have these, okay, you can go, there's established like temples or mandirs, or there's places of community centers where you can find that. But initially, like I said, in the 60s and 70s, my parents' generation were the people that were building it like, hey, I think we should donate money and build a Hindu community center. So it's nice that they're established, but I want my kids, I feel like it's an uphill. So when we celebrate Diwali, like our Indian New Year's, I was like, okay, you guys, we're all going to come home, take pictures. You better be dressed. Everybody's got to come dressed in Indian clothes. Like, I don't want to hear like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, we got to do it. So sometimes we have to not push it on them, but make it happen. Yeah. Right? And there's some things that are just black and white. You just got to do it. I don't know how to explain it. I want it to
You got to preserve that.
You got to preserve it.
100%.
Yes.
All right, so Shefalee, shout out all your social media handles that people can tap in with all the great work that you're doing in the community.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. So Instagram, Art Shefalee, Shefalee. I'm on Facebook, Cultural Connections by Shefalee, and I have a website, but I'm working on.
Coming soon.
Yes, coming soon. It just needs a lot of tweaking. But Shefalee.art. Okay. And that's, Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
So Jack of All Spades Nation, you've heard a lot of gems. Like, we love moments like this where we actually learn. Of course, we always learn, but then today I think was just on another level. Another level on some learning. But, as always, I am the beloved one.
It's your boy YBB. Shout out DRC and all the diaspora.
Yep. Banks, Blue Water, Fat Boy Tires.
All right, now Shefalee, do you have any parting words for Jack of All Spades Nation?
Like I said, life is really a performance, and it's about the people that you surround yourself with. And I really do. Namaste to all of you guys. Namaste. Thank you for having me. And I hope this is just the beginning of this journey. And we're going to continue whichever way, however, it's going to be a long way to go. And I want to, and back to that thing, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So I got to step up. And that's what I'm learning on behalf of my community, on behalf of myself, for my kids in the future. I'm like, this is my home. We're not leaving Charlotte. My kids were born here. They love it. My son's like, Mom, just buy me a house right now. I'm going to live it. I was like, no, you can buy your own place. But so yeah, that's great. He's like, I love it. It's like we talked about it. It's a great city. It's growing. It's not a major Chicago, New York, LA, but it's not small little village. We are number 15 in the country. And so we're proud and loud. And I want to be part of what's going to make the city even better. And how we can do that, it's by working with people and meeting people.
Correct.
So thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for being a part of this. Yes.
Even on the way out, she dropping gems.
I'm inspired. If you ain't inspired, I don't know what to tell you.
For real. But Jack of All Spades Nation, you know where you can find us. Anchor.fm is the reason why you can hear us on places like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Thanks to our sister, Amaris for the audio and the visuals that can be found on YouTube. Facebook, Instagram, Jack of All Spades CLT. You know, we're continuing to move along, and like Shefalee said, we're trying to be a part of the solution by doing this podcast for sure. But you know how we close things out. One time for Jack. Oh my goodness, that's a first. That's a first. Okay. One time for a Tribe Called Quest.
Yes.
Rest in peace, Malik Taylor. And if you don't know who that is, it's Phife Dawg, the 5-footer. Tell your mother, tell your father, send a telegram, and we're out.